I wrote in the Most Creative newsletter this week about what my mom taught me about Taylor Swift. And I just want to talk a little bit about that today because I think it is relevant to anyone who's working in music or creative projects that they pay attention to this lesson. And what happened is during the Taylor Swift announced 6 Toronto dates, not for next year, but the year after, 2024 or 2025. I don't remember. It's in quite a while. Yeah, November 2024. Sorry. So the next year. And so not November this year of 2023, but 2024. And obviously the response was mayhem and really impossible to get tickets. And obviously I was conscripted into the effort to get on the Ticketmaster. I went into some kind of queue system that for pre-sale authorization. And then when it came time to get tickets, there was no email came back, as with the majority of people, just no ability to get tickets. I don't know who got the tickets. We'll never know until concert date. And then so it sparked a lot of discussion in my house and my family about why is she so successful? And something I couldn't really go into that much detail on the written part of what I wrote was that like she is very successful because for starters, she is supported by the parents. So they back her, I believe. Her message is very clean and positive, right? So it's not like the kids are going crazy about someone who kind of is forbidden, and therefore Taylor Swift can get the parent support and sell all these tickets. That's one part of it that is fairly obvious to people from the outside looking in. But what my mom realized and thought was that she is successful because she apparently doesn't hang around bad boyfriends and bad people. Well, I mean, I'm sure there's some bad people in her crew, but maybe not. And that's something worth noting because that shows you that some artists and celebrities in some way can navigate the challenge of what they work on and do it in a way where they can be successful, but also steer clear of the common traps that other famous people had fallen into. And I know that if you look at the story of Trey Anastasio from Fish, he got himself into a lot of trouble many years ago because he had a DUI, driving under the influence, and then he was sort of under house arrest, and everything around that time, which was sort of his collapse at the time, was it meant that the band Fish was pretty much broken up and they were on hiatus or something, or I don't know, I don't remember what they called it. But only until he cleaned up the people hanging around at the shows and the because every band has groupies, and those groupies can be people who work for the band or they manage the band. But if there's issues with those that inner circle of people, as was the case with Trey, then it's going to be very hard for that person to, in his case, the challenge was to get clean again. And in the case of some of these other celebrities, the situation would be a bad relationship that, and I think there was something where Taylor Swift was dating someone who made some bad remarks and she dropped him. And that was the story that my mom was able to cite on that one. And I do find this interesting because think about in your personal life the people you surround yourself with and what effect they have on you. And And if you're in a stage or a phase where you're making new friends and new relationships, new network, adding to your network, you have to really consider these things carefully because some people are just bad influences, and not just that. If you're collaborating with people, some people are toxic and they're hard to work with, and they're going to drain you. And when you're drained, you can't perform your best work, which is called your most creative work, because you're being sucked dry. And I call these people vampires, but Eckhart Tolle has a very good take on it, which is something involving unconsciousness. So people who are conscious are don't really operate from a place of their ego. They're operating from a place of their spirit. But people who are unconscious are operating from their ego. So the sort of little baby inside of them is crying for attention, and there's a million ways people's ego kind of runs the show for them. But typically, you, you we all know people who are characterized by a high amount of drama. And an example would be a small issue becomes a large debate, and they need to be heard through the end of the debate. They need to win the debate. And that's the type of behavior you get from high maintenance people. Everything becomes a thing at some point, and it's very hard to work with. And it's also very hard for a lot of these people's families because they can't really drop them unless they're like really bad. So some people can be moderately high maintenance, and then their family really has to deal with them, and or they can be successful, and the people who work with them have to deal with them, but they might not get very far with other types of people in relationships in their life. So it's very case by case, obviously, but the fact remains that you want to steer clear of these people, and you definitely don't want to engage in too many collaborations with people of this sort if you can avoid it. And also, if you're building your team of professionals, and talented creative people can easily fall into the trap of working with other people who don't have their best interests in mind and can be sort of exploitive in nature. So you have to also be careful of that as well in the creative world. But in general, I thought it was worth sharing. What does make some of these people successful more than others? And obviously, it's not just about the people they hang out with. There are many, many traits, but it's just worth noting what that uh, part and what that plays into the picture and thinking about it for yourself. So I hope this was interesting, and thank you for watching.